You sit there, your hand resting on their back, and suddenly their breath grows long, as if someone were secretly turning a volume knob you've never seen before. Their eyes close, not out of tiredness, but softness, and you feel that small surrender in their whole body, as if they finally allowed themselves to just be there. In this moment, more is happening than just being cute or relaxed. Inside their head, switches are flipping that you can't see, but you can feel if you look closely. Today we're talking about exactly that. What petting really does to dogs, why slow stroking works differently than hectic scratching, and why some dogs drink up closeness like water. We'll look at which spots often have the strongest effect, why pressure isn't the same as love, and why timing is sometimes more important than technique. And yes, at the very end, there's a small twist that turns I just like petting them into I understand what we're doing for each other right now. Stay tuned, because this one thought can help you guess less and feel more, and give your dog a sense of security that lasts. Imagine you come home, the day was loud, and the first contact is your hand on their fur, even before you take off your jacket or fully turn on the light. They lean in, not dramatically, but like a sentence that is finally being finished, and you realize, this isn't a reward for performance, this is arriving. Many people think touch is just decoration alongside food, training, and sleep, but for dogs, it's often the language in which trust grows fastest. And now comes the part that seems surprising because it sounds so simple. Touch is a signal for the body, not just for the heart, and signals can either calm or ignite. In short, if you do too much, too restlessly, too fast all at once, your well-intentioned scratching can feel like a small thunderstorm on the skin. This isn't a criticism, but a relief, because afterward you can achieve more with less effort, without your dog loving you any less. Gentle, predictable movement invites the body to wind down, not like a command, but like a rhythm that doesn't need to be translated. Your dog doesn't have a clock for now relax. They have skin, nerves, and a nervous system that reacts to contact even before words play a role. When you stroke slowly, one breath, one stroke, another breath, you sometimes notice their chins sink, their shoulders soften, their tail grow calmer. That's often more than just comfort. That's a body that doesn't have to pay as much attention anymore, because the signal is, there is no fight here right now, there is closeness. Now you can pause for a moment, because this next sentence surprises many owners who believe more pressure means more love. Pressure isn't automatically depth, and depth isn't automatically faster. Sometimes the strongest touch is the one that proves almost nothing except constancy. Some dogs love it when the hand stays flat and is just there, like a warm blanket with a heartbeat, instead of like a broom wanting to finish the fur. And then there are those dogs that wake up at every touch, as if they had to check if the world is safe, not because they don't like you, but because their history, their day, their body is currently louder than your intention, and then it needs to be slower, shorter, more predictable, not more and not louder. If you have a dog like that, less is sometimes the fastest way to more trust, because trust doesn't grow from constant pressure, but from repeated safety. Good, and now it gets a bit like body feeling without the lab, because we need a word many know but rarely connect with petting: oxytocin. Oxytocin is often something like the molecule of closeness, not magical, but explanatory of why touch sometimes feels like sticking together in a good way, without becoming cheesy. When you pet them and you are both at peace, such a moment can promote hormones and signals that feel like, we belong together, in the here and now. That doesn't mean every petting session is a measuring instrument. It means your body and theirs can wander in the same direction if the contact is right. And here is something many overlook because it isn't as cinematic as a trick or a sprint in the park. Touch can also reduce stress if it doesn't demand anything. Not every second has to achieve something. Sometimes the greatest thing is that nothing is required except, I am here, you are allowed to soften. Once you feel that, You'll scratch less hectically because you realize your dog doesn't always need more stimulation, but sometimes less drama. Now comes a small reality check that might hurt, but is comforting because it removes guilt. Some days your dog reacts differently to petting, and that isn't automatically your fault. Pain, tiredness, noise outside, a different smell in the apartment, everything can make the skin and the nervous system more sensitive, without love being missing. In such a moment, the best touch is often the quietest. Short, clear, predictable, and then space, instead of trying to massage away with intensity. And in case you think that sounds too soft for a real dog, strength sometimes looks like calm, not like pressure. Good. Pattern interrupt? Honestly, when your dog suddenly yawns while being petted, it isn't always boredom. Often it's a downregulation, a small vent. Yawning during contact can mean, I'm switching modes, I'm relaxing, I'm letting go, and exactly that is a compliment in many situations. If you want, remember this as a rule. 3 quiet minutes are better than 10 restless ones where your hand is faster than their nervous system can keep up. Now to the spots that often have a special effect on many dogs, though there's no guarantee because every body has a life of its own. Many dogs soften on the chest, under the chin, on the side of the neck, when the movement is slow and doesn't become a stress-filled exploration. The back can be calming if you don't rub like scraping snow off a windshield, but like someone who respects fur and not just surface. And the paws are often sensitive, not always, but often, because they are delicate and because dogs sometimes want to control rather than cuddle there. If your dog pulls their paw away, it's rarely drama. Often it's, not now, not like that, not there, and that's information, not a rejection of you. Good. And now something many people misunderstand and then get sad about. If they get up and leave while you're petting, it doesn't automatically mean they want nothing to do with me. Sometimes it's overstimulation, sometimes it's temperature, sometimes it's an urge to regroup, and sometimes it's just, pause, please. Dogs also communicate by walking away, and that can be more loving than having to endure, because closeness without choice quickly becomes uncomfortable. If you respect that, they often come back on their own, because closeness then isn't a compulsion, but an invitation they are allowed to accept. And here is the part that gives many pride and relief at the same time. You don't have to massage perfectly, you just have to be honestly gentle and find a rhythm that suits them. Training isn't just sit and stay, training is also, I touch you in a way that your body can say yes, without you having to explain it out loud. If you practice this, you'll notice that your dog sometimes seeks you out, not just for food, but for the contact that feels safe. Now a moment that can hurt if read wrong. Some dogs lick intensely when touched, and that isn't always thank you in a cartoon sense. Licking can be nervousness, can be a displacement activity, can be I'm keeping myself busy so it doesn't become too much, and then slower is often better than more. If you see that, make the movement smaller, quieter, or pause, and see if their mouth becomes more relaxed without you trying to calm it by force. And yes, that also applies to children in the house. Petting by children is often fast and loud in its energy, and some dogs then need an adult filter in between. Not because children are bad, but because children are different in their bodies. And your dog shouldn't learn that closeness always tastes hectic. Good. And now the twist that shifts everything slightly without making it theatrical. Petting is also a dialogue, and like any dialogue, it needs pauses. Pauses aren't gaps. Pauses are ends of sentences, and your dog sometimes answers with a sigh, sometimes with a lean back, sometimes with a short glance. If you notice these answers, you'll have less "am I doing it right?" in your head, and more "we're finding our pace," and that is bonding. Bonding isn't just adventure. Bonding is also this quiet being next to each other where touch says, I haven't left, even if nothing is happening right now. And if you have a day where you yourself want to be carried, it's okay if your dog lies with you and you touch them. And realize at the same time, that does something for you too. Humans often benefit from quiet contact with an animal without it having to sound mystical, because the rhythm slows down and the breath follows. This isn't a replacement for therapy. It's a piece of regulation in everyday life that many underestimate until they suddenly feel it. Now comes something practical that sounds too simple but works wonders. Pay attention to their breathing like a second voice under your own. If your breath is high and fast, your dog sometimes picks up that beat, and if you intentionally slow down, that can become like an invisible leash that loosens. Not as manipulation, but as shared physics. Calm is contagious if it's real and not acted out like a theater role. If you notice them tense up when you stay in one spot, gently change the angle, not abruptly, not frantically, but like a gentle detour. Some hot spots on the body are truly sensitive. Some are just habit, and some are memory, and memory needs time, not pressure. And here is a sentence that opens many owners' eyes. Touch is also boundary work, because more doesn't automatically mean closer. Closeness is quality, not quantity, and quality feels like, I see you, I respect your body, I don't want to walk over you. When you feel that, petting suddenly becomes respect, and respect becomes trust, and trust becomes less drama in everyday life. Good, a little check for you, without you having to test yourself like in an exam. If they close their eyes and the jaw becomes loose, you are often at the right pace. If their eyes are wide and the skin under the fur almost trembles, it's often too much or too restless, even if your intention is worth gold. And if they turn their head away but leave the body, that's sometimes a compromise. I'm staying, but not full frontal. That too is communication. Now something for the people who feel ashamed because their dog isn't cuddly. That isn't a character flaw. It's often a temperament plus experience plus daily form. You can build closeness like muscle, only slower, short, positive touches that always end before it becomes too much. That sounds technical, but in everyday life, it feels like politeness. And politeness between species is one of the most beautiful forms of love. And if you've always thought your dog was too independent, independence and cuddling are not mutually exclusive, they just have different doors. Some dogs cuddle with closeness and movement, next to you instead of on you, and that is also touch, just across a distance that is still connected. If you allow that without talking it down, you'll compare less with other dogs and more with what is truly growing between you. Good, and now an emotional peak, without any kitsch, promised. Sometimes the most important moment of the day isn't the big walk, but those 10 seconds of hand on fur. Because in those 10 seconds, nothing has to be achieved. No leash, no command, no proof. Only, I am here, you are here, we are enough. Once you recognize that for what it is, you'll ask yourself less if you're doing enough, because you feel that presence can also be enough. And for everyone who has an older dog, touch can become gentler, shorter, different, and yet it remains the same language, just spoken more quietly. Then less pressure is suddenly more clarity, and more clarity is often what old bodies need. Instead of energy, they no longer want a budget. If you notice them flinch or become restless, a light, broad contact is sometimes better than fine fingertips that feel like ticking. And if they only like short closeness now, then those short moments aren't poor. They are concentrated, like espresso instead of a liter cup. Now the payoff that feels good when you think it out loud. You aren't just petting them, you're giving their system a chance to be safe, and that is love with a signature. Love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a breath, a stroke, a pause, a repetition, until the body believes, this belongs to us. If you take only one sentence with you today, let it be this. Slow is often more honest than strong, and constancy beats show. And when you come home again tomorrow, try it intentionally, hand on fur, for 3 breaths, before you let the world pour into the room. You'll see that some dogs only really exhale when you model it first, without words, without drama, without pressure. If the video helped you, share it with someone who always says, "My dog isn't the cuddly type. Maybe they're just the quiet contact type." Write to us in the comments how your dog reacts when you intentionally slow down. Sighing, yawning, turning away, coming closer, everything counts, really everything. We read along because these stories help others feel less alone with a dog that isn't like in the movies, but like in real life. And if you like, also write which spot on your dog is the magic spot, without it sounding embarrassing. We all know that. Finally, something that feels good, even if it's quiet. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be honestly gentle, and that is often enough, more than you think. Take care of yourself, take care of your rhythm, and take care of this little creature that sometimes says more with a sigh than with a trick. If you slowed down intentionally just once today, this click was worth it, for them, and also for you, really. See you soon, and the next time you see their eyes close, you'll know, that can be more than tired, that can be coming home. Thank you for listening. Even if a sentence in between was uncomfortable, like a gravel path barefoot that still leads somewhere. Sometimes that is exactly the proof that something is important. It tickles before it brings relief, and true understanding often feels like that. And in case you wonder if you're interpreting too much into a moment, you are interpreting closeness, and that is never too much if it's respectful and leaves pauses. In this sense, your hand is no accident. It's an invitation, and their reaction is the answer that needs no dictionary. I look forward to your comments, to the next stories, and to the moments we untangle together, step by step. Take a minute tonight where you don't want to teach anything, except that you are there, quiet, slow, without a list in your head. And if they then feel something big anyway, it's a bonus, but no proof that love only begins with performance, because it was already there. That is the difference between pressure and bonding, and both may occur in life, but bonding should win more often than haste. Sometimes you only notice after a minute that your neck is tight, and exactly then it's worth letting your shoulders sink so that your hand doesn't pet out of tension. When two people are in the room and both want to touch them, it can act like two different radio stations. Then a clear, friendly change is often gentler than simultaneous bustling about. Touch after a bath often feels different because skin and fur are more sensitive. Then shorter and softer is sometimes more than longer and more energetic. If they lightly rest their paw on your hand, that often isn't a command, but a small continue, but like this. Like a gentle co-determination that you can respect without making yourself small. Cold hands in winter are no crime, but a short pause to warm up can make the difference between a surprise on the skin and a feeling that remains inviting. Some dogs become calmer if you don't just pet, but also pause briefly and only then continue, like a sentence with a comma instead of rapid fire. And if you haven't achieved anything big today except this one quiet minute, your day was still valuable, because closeness is also work, just spoken more quietly. I wish you less doubt in your hands and more trust in small, quiet movements that shape over years. Write us one more word that describes your dog when you pet them. Soft, awake, delicate, strong, and we'll see each other in the next video if you like. See you soon, and if you felt just once today that their breath follows, that moment was worth it, promised. And if there are days when they don't want to, that is also a part of you, without drama, without meaning overload, simply honest. Then the best love is sometimes, I respect your no just as much as your yes, and I still remain friendly in my world. If you can do that, petting will never become a power game, but a place where you both are allowed to grow without measuring yourselves. Good, and now one last thought for everyone in a hurry. The best moments often linger longer when they are short and quiet, not when they are made epic. Epics are for trailers, everyday life is for breath, and bonding lives in everyday life, not just in the highlights you would film. When you feel that, you'll have less content in your head and more life, and your dog notices the difference, even without an app. Thanks again for staying tuned. And don't forget, a gentle stroke can sometimes repair more than a long lecture on training. And if you reach out your hand just once more tonight before the light goes out, do it slowly, and don't count, don't measure, don't judge. Just being, just feeling, just the little proof that security is allowed to lie flat on the fur without performance. In this sense, good night for later, good day for now, and everything in between is also okay because you belong together. We'll see each other, and until then, less rush in the hands, more calm in the room, for them and for you.